Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Season 1, Episode 3, The Road to Caledon. Our episode in a nutshell is just a brief summary of exactly what happens within this episode. The episode begins with a group of villagers led by Proteus arriving at a deserted village that only has a dog living in it, where they decide that they are going to start new lives and that's going to be their new home. However, almost immediately, a storm rolls in, making it dangerous for them to go outside. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Hercules arrives for shelter from the storm in a cave where he meets an old seer who basically has his eyes sewn shut but is able to see, and this seer really enjoys doom and gloom and dangerous situations, which he can foresee occurring. The next day, we then have Hercules arriving into the town where he's basically arrives, he greets the villagers, and basically says, "Hey, you know that this village is cursed, you shouldn't be here. Let me guide you to a blessed city under the protection of Apollo, Caledon, where you'll be able to really start your new lives." And of course, the head Proteus is kind of like, I led them here. I'm the leader. I don't want you interfering." But unfortunately, his villagers do kind of take Hercules' side, and they do decide that they want to try out a different village, as this one obviously is decrepit, and apparently now they know it is cursed. The seer, while he is having conversations with the villagers, goes to Hera's temple, and this is where we see a glimpse of the past through his eyes, where within this village, there was a woman who had caught the eye of Zeus, and Zeus had given her a golden chalice that they painted over into like kind of a multicolored chalice, which honestly looks more like a candy dish because it is kind of, it's not round, it's like ovular, and it has like a little stand at the bottom. It really looks more like a candy dish, to be honest. Anyways, and because Zeus gave this to her and Hera found out, she cursed the woman to be a dog, the dog that lives in the village, and turned all of the other villagers that were in the town to dust, leaving it as a cursed village going forward, which then they begin their journey. And as they are journeying, they have to go past these dangerous swamps. As they're nearing the swamps, there are a lot of sand pits and quicksand, so he warns everybody to watch their step, helps a couple of the people who do fall into the sand pits, and then all of a sudden we get attacked by more of Hera's executioners. This time they're made not from a whip, but from basically the head executioner comes out of the dirt, and then he throws a bunch of little mini skulls into the dirt, and then these mini skulls grow up into more executioners. And because they're not really living beings, when they attack Hercules, even if they get their head chopped off, even if they get arms or limbs chopped off, they still keep moving because they're not alive. But he eventually manages to defeat them by basically breaking them beyond the repair to the point where even if they are still moving, they can't do anything. And before he dies, the head executioner, or before he's stopped, I should say, the head executioner kind of tells them all that you have a chalice, we aren't going to stop. Hera won't stop chasing you until she gets back what's hers. And this, of course, lets them know that there is a thief among them. Two of the characters that get a little bit more of a spotlight are Janna and Ixion, who are two orphans that are traveling with Proteus and the other villagers, and they get trapped in a sand pit while a flying monster that looks like a dinosaur attacks them and Hercules. Hercules, of course, frees them from the sand pit and saves their lives. We also then find out that Proteus is the one who stole the chalice. He claims that it was in order to protect all of the villagers. You know, we can sell this, we'll get a fortune, we'll make our own village. I'll be the head of it. Isn't it going to be great? Of course, this is when the villagers go, "We've had enough of you, Proteus. We don't want you around no more." And Hercules takes the chalice and says, you know what, if you want the chalice so badly, it's yours, go chase it. And he throws it. And because he is super strong, it goes super far. And Proteus runs off after it, while the rest of the villagers then continue the journey and they do make it to Caledon. Along the way, there is some conflicts where kind of some of the other villagers don't really like Igan and Shanna because they're orphans, but by the time they get to Caledon, it's shown that they are accepted, and then the old seer decides he's going to travel with Hercules. However, that is when the dog reappears, and basically Hercules says, "There you go, I've been replaced as a travel companion." And when the old man asks why, he says that she's cursed and he's not, i.e., she's more dangerous than he is, because this seer really enjoys the danger of it all and is rather disappointed when he sees good things instead of bad things. And so we're left on a hopeful note. The villagers get to their town. The lonely dog, who was once a woman, finds somebody to travel with and be with for the remainder of her dog life, and Hercules continues on with his journeys into the next episode. So now that I've rewatched the episode, we're going to rank the episode on our two lists. A reminder that one is a mostly objective ranking list, which does not have emotion applied, and then the other is the personal ranking list, which is where the emotion applies. So starting with our mostly objective rank values, we first have our single episode supporting character introductions. Honestly, in this one, all the villagers are given a name, but the one that's really important to the episode is the thief and the head who's constantly trying to get in Hercules' way, and that is Proteus, and he's worth 1 point. And then we also have a multi-episode supporting character introduction, which is the old seer. I believe his name is Tursus, but I'm not 100% certain on it. Either way, he's in this episode, and then I believe he's also briefly in the next episode, so he is worth 2 points for that reason. And then we had a little bit of world building. We learn, obviously, that there is the existence of seers. We also learn that there are some towns and villages that have been cursed and others that are charmed. And being a charmed village means essentially that you are blessed by one of the gods and they will protect you and make sure that your city stays safe, hence why it is charmed. And in the case of Caledon, it is protected and blessed by Apollo. There's also the monster in the swamps, which is a flying creature that looks like a pterodactyl, like a dinosaur. I don't think it's supposed to be a dinosaur because obviously they'd be extinct by this point, but it looks like a dinosaur. And so in my mind, dinosaurs exist within this world, and it's not really named, so it definitely could have been a dinosaur. And that's worth 4 points for each of those things, which brings us to a 7 out of 10 ranking overall. So as a reminder of our season 1 rankings so far, on our mostly objective ranking, we have in first place The Wrong Path. This one falls into second, The Road to Caledon, and then in third, Eye of the Beholder. Now on a personal note, I found this episode to be a little bit less amusing than some of the past episodes, but I didn't expect that every single episode was going to be comedy. I feel like with this show, I actually kind of like that they don't go too deep with the acting because, as I've mentioned before, for me, this is a children's show that I watched as a single-digit aged child. And I feel like if they had gone and shown gore, if they had gone and shown things like innuendos, if they had gone and shown, really strong, deep emotion and whatnot, it probably would not have been as children friendly as it is. And I do believe it is meant to be children's friendly because they do have an animated movie that they made in the franchise. And you don't make an animated movie typically for adults in most cases. And obviously that movie in particular was definitely a children's movie. So I do think it is a children's friendly show, even if it wasn't necessarily a children's show. And I did like this episode. I thought it kept me entertained the whole time I was watching it. However, apart from the theme of do not steal, it didn't really have any overarching themes besides the one I mentioned. And even that one was kind of an afterthought. It was basically like a journey. There was a couple times that Hercules fought, there was some interaction between the villagers, but ultimately it didn't really feel like much was happening. It kind of just felt like an escort mission that took, not that long. And so while it's not a bad episode, it's also not the best episode that I've seen so far. And I do think the previous two episodes have been better. And so I decided to give it a ranking of 4 out of 10 for this episode, which then brings our personal ranking to, in first place, Eye of the Beholder, second place, The Wrong Path, and this one falls into third place with The Road to Caledon. Which then brings us to our series ranking so far, and in our series ranking so far for season 1 on the objective side, we are adding 7 for a total of 19 out of 130, and then on the personal side, we are adding just 4, and that brings us to 17 out of 130. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Hercules Legendary Journeys Season 1 Episode 3, The Road to Caledon. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.